Government Order of the Day number 2. Thank you, Mr Robertson.
Industry Training and Apprenticeship Amendment Bill, third reading.
I call the Honourable Minister Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Industry Training and Apprenticeships Amendment Bill be now read a third time. Mr Speaker, can I thank members for the work they've done on this bill? Their amendments have improved the bill. This is a very important bill that completes this government's comprehensive reforms to improve industry training to achieve better performance for employers, for trainees, for apprentices and also for taxpayers. Mr Speaker, there is a big opportunity over the next few years to train more New Zealanders in vocational careers that will set them up well for their working lives. To maximise this opportunity, it is essential New Zealand has a high-quality, responsive industry training system. When we came into office, Mr Speaker, it was clear that that was not the case, and in fact that industry training was a mess. Government expenditure on industry training had more than trebled from $64 million in 2000-2001 to $204 million in the 2009-2010 financial year. In 2011, there were approximately 154,000 trainees and apprentices enrolled in industry training, and this included nearly 15,000 modern apprentices. However, in performance, as measured by qualification completions and credit attainment, was very poor. Only about a third of trainees achieved a qualification 5 years after starting their industry training program. Typically, more than half of industry trainees and over 30% of modern apprentices achieved no credits between 2002 and 2010. Mr Speaker, the system was riddled with what has now become known as phantom trainees. Thousands and thousands of trainees that had not completed any credits under the Labor government of the day was all about signing people up and nothing about what happened afterwards. This was an obviously unsustainable situation, and the government took very quick and decisive action. Our operational changes have led to significant improvements in both qualification and credit attainment. That work continues, and it has freed up funding to reinvest into the system. We also initiated a much more fundamental look at the industry training system. Overall, the review found that the industry training system was highly variable in terms of levels of service to employers and trainees in its connection to industry and its performance. The bill implements the changes arising from that review that required legislative change. The first objective of the bill is to enable the establishment of comprehensive New Zealand apprenticeships that provide the same level of support to all apprentices, regardless of their age. It repeals the Modern Apprenticeship Training Act 2000 and amends the Industry Training Act 1992 so that legislation relating to industry training and apprenticeships is located in one modern piece of legislation. The bill defines apprenticeship training and removes the existing age restrictions on that activity. The bill combines modern apprenticeships and other apprenticeship-type training programs into what is a premier vocational qualification. New Zealand apprenticeships will provide the same level of support and the same level of subsidy for all apprentices, regardless of their age. We have boosted the prestige and the educational content of apprenticeships by requiring all such programs to be at least 120 credits and to result in a Level 4 qualification. And this government has increased the funding for apprenticeships, which will allow industry training organisations to invest in the quality of education for their apprentices, to lower fees and to encourage uptake. Our apprenticeship reboot has been underway since March of last year. New apprentices enrolled since then have been eligible for a grant of $1,000 towards their on-job and off-job costs, or $2,000 if they are in priority trades, with the same amount paid to their employer. Initially, the reboot applied to the first 10,000 apprentices, but uptake has been so good that in December we extended it to the first 14,000 who applied. Since the reboot started, so far over 11,000 apprentices have been signed up. The second objective of the bill is to focus industry training organisations on two core responsibilities: setting skills standards for their industries and arranging training. The bill removes the industry training organisation's statutory skills leadership function, which required them to identify all current and future skill needs for their whole industry. Removing this role will encourage industry training organisations to focus on arranging training, which businesses have told us is the service that they most value. Removing their statutory skills leadership requirement does not prevent them in any way from undertaking that role. However, it will incentivise other organisations, such as companies and industry associations, to take a greater direct role in skills leadership with government agencies like the TEC, MB and the Ministry of Education. This will improve links between the government and industry in determining present and future skills needs. The bill also prevents industry training organisations from owning registered PTEs. This removes the possibility of industry training organisations directing trainees towards institutions in which they have a financial interest. The third objective of the bill is to strengthen the quality assurance framework for industry training organisations. Thanks to a comprehensive amalgamation program with the ITF, we have reduced the number of industry training organisations by 2/3. We now have fewer, larger, more capable industry training organisations that are well placed to provide a better service to their trainees and employers. However, an appropriate regulatory regime needs to be in place to address any unsatisfactory performance that may arise. This bill addresses this by strengthening the quality assurance framework for ITOs. The quality assurance framework for industry training organisations is currently weaker than for other tertiary education organisations. This has contributed to the issues with quality of industry training in the past. The bill gives the NZQA power to prescribe quality assurance requirements for industry training organisations. The bill also gives the Qualifications Authority the power to impose a graduated regime of sanctions in order to address poor performance by an industry training organisation. Members opposite Mr Speaker expressed concern about the provisions in the bill making it clear that non-ITOs can receive funding for industry training and apprenticeship training. With the greatest respect, these concerns are misplaced. Allowing non-ITOs to be funded for arranging training and apprenticeship training activities will strengthen the incentive for ITOs to provide excellent service to their employers and their trainees. The review of industry training in 2011 found that a significant number of employers thought their ITO did a poor job. Having this option available as an alternative for employers will encourage the ITOs to provide quality service to their employee clients at all times. It's called competition. Secondly, I don't expect actually many employers to take up the option. Only $10 million of funding for non-ITOs is available in each of 2014 and 15, which is about 5% of total funding for industry training and apprenticeships. It's worth remembering that participating employers must have at least 40 trainees each year. No, it's not ideological, Mr Robertson. It's about getting the best result for trainees and the employers. Mr Speaker, the monitoring and assessing of they do want to do it, and they want to do it across regions in New Zealand. Mr Speaker, the monitoring and assessing of non-ITO arrangements for training will have to be acceptable to NZQA. Furthermore, the funding determination specifies that in order to receive funding, non-ITOs and ITOs must ensure any program in which a trainee is enrolled meets NZQA's quality assurance requirements. In practice, as a matter of policy, the government only funds industry training that leads to transferable qualifications for the employee. That policy will apply to non-ITOs in the same way it applies to ITOs. There will be a level playing field. But, Mr Speaker, once again, I make no apology. If ITOs aren't doing their job, this government and this minister will allow employers to make other arrangements. It's called competition, and the opposition should not be afraid of it. Mr Speaker, this bill is a vital part of the government's comprehensive reforms to industry training to achieve better performance for employers, better performance for trainees, better performance to apprentices and also for taxpayers, groups that the opposition is completely estranged from. Mr Speaker, most of all, the result of this bill and the government reforms that accompany it mean that many more thousands of New Zealanders will achieve a real vocational qualification that will provide them with a career that will allow them to provide for themselves and their families into the future. For that, this House can be very proud. Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. I call the honourable member Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much.